Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay. Now, why is Lynn coming up instead of us?
Oh,
I don't understand that. Oh, there we go. All right. How is everybody? Let us know if you can hear us okay. We're hoping that,
Hello.
hoping that we can do a little bit of a better job than last time with the internet. So let us know if you can hear us and see us a little bit better than you could last week.
Good
All right,
stuff.
so all good, great, loud and clear. That's always good. Can we see Mick's beard very clearly?
Yes. Look at that.
It's time to start planting stuff in that beard, I reckon. So, great to see you, Damien and Alison.
I've got food from a couple of weeks ago in this, I think.
No, don't say that. That's disgusting. All right. Sounds like we're all okay. Ready to rock. Great to see so many people. Still people jumping on now. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Damien, Dean, Chris, Ash, Alison.
Fungus, come on.
Philip, great to see you. Got lots of people coming. If I'm not saying hello to you, it's only because it's going so fast that I can't always catch it on the way through. So nice to see you, Lynn. Great. All right. Well, we might get started. Yeah, it's nice and cold today.
Guess what? We've got JobKeeper.
No, we haven't. Please, we have not got JobKeeper. Don't make people want to jump off already. So, although I guess the only thing that we do say about JobKeeper at the moment is that it may not last as long as we think it's going to last. I think ScoMo made it pretty clear that he was leaving the door wide open to be able to shut that down at any time if he wanted to.
I think that's probably why today's topic is pretty pertinent, because if people are relying on JobKeeper to get them through for a bit longer, then today might be important, because if it finishes in July, you're 3 months short if your cash flow doesn't look at that far out. So
look, we've got a few newbies on the webinar today. So welcome to you if it's your first time joining us. The purpose of the Hub has really all about doing our bit for businesses while we're in this time of COVID and isolation. And, you know, it's something that Mick and I felt strongly about right from the start. We have the training and skills to be able to lead business owners through this time. And so we wanted to be able to do that. We've tried to be, I think, not just through this, but as much as we could in our business, to be as valuable as possible to business owners. For us, that's meant working very long hours. It's meant working weekends. But we've made a decision that we didn't want to look back at this time and wish we'd done more to help people and to be able to make a difference. So the feedback we've got has been great. And in particular, we've loved that what we've been hearing from a lot of you is that you're finding it not only informative, but a bit of fun as well. So that's good, because look, you know, it's serious enough right now. We want to be able to get the information to you, but also still enjoy a little bit of a laugh as we go along. So I hope you've got a pen and paper available for today's session, because we're going to go through some pretty cool stuff. And Mick, do you want to talk about what we've got for our viewers today?
Let's look at what we got today. Last month we talked about the 6 things business owners need to focus on during a crisis. So if you haven't watched last week's video, I encourage you to do so, because as well as a quick JobKeeper update, we actually jump into some business strategy stuff. So it'd be good to review that if you haven't watched it. And those who didn't catch it, you recall that the #1 area we looked at and focused on was surprisingly cash flow.
Yeah, because we looked at the 6 things that you need to move your business forward. #1 was cash flow. So if you have missed it, go back and check the video, or we do have a good fact sheet that we developed that's in the Hub as well. So whether you watched it or didn't watch it, please make sure that you grab a copy of that fact sheet.
Bare minimum. Anyway, cash flow is a very big topic, and I will, as I said at the top, I think it's important, if you're relying on JobKeeper, to really look at your cash flow. And it's a big topic as we drill deeper today into cash flow, the area. It's an area you might want to get right.
You don't want to get it wrong.
The other 5 reasons we talked about last time in the business strategy area are somewhat irrelevant if you do not have cash flow. So today we want to give you our thoughts on what you should be including on a forecast and some tips that we want to share with you as well. Everyone's heard that cash is king, and last week I mentioned in a crisis like this, cash flow is oxygen. So it is seriously oxygen. I love it. Yep. So business survival in this climate, when sales are potentially dwindling, and in some instances your doors closed, a business survival is dictated by how quickly you can address a cash flow problem or lack of oxygen until you get things back to normal.
I think too, even when a business is at this time, it doesn't even have to be about survival. For a lot of businesses it is, right? It is about survival. But even for businesses who know that they're going to survive this time, it's about being in the absolute best possible position that you can be in to just run out of the gate once this is over.
Very good point, Karen, or Kaz, Karen. Yes. And we'll touch on that a bit more later.
Well, why I'm in trouble and you're calling me Karen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you saw ScoMo on Friday, we've pretty much covered it. He's patting him, well, he didn't cover it, but he's patting himself on the back for the success of the government stimulus packages. And look, aside from some of the serious execution issues, namely, I have even less hair than ever, as accountants and bookkeepers out there would know that, due to JobKeeper. He's right. It's been great, and it's instilled some confidence in these times of crisis. And many more businesses would have already gone under without some of these stimulus packages. But I guess the message you really want to get across today to as many business owners as possible, and is, whilst these entitlements are great and give you an initial boost, you want to have a real understanding of what it means for your business over the next 6 months or so. And as Karen just pointed out, be in the best possible position to smack out of the gates.
Yeah. So what we're concerned is happening, and what we're kind of seeing out in the big wide world, is that a lot of business owners are simply getting their entitlements and then just hoping and praying that the money's going to last them until it's back to business as usual. And here's the thing, you know, if we talk about business as usual, we're getting some easing for isolation, but make no mistake, the economy and a lot of businesses are a long way from recovery, and we need to really be aware of that. So there's a few problems that we're seeing at the moment for business owners, is that you know, we don't know how long the money is going to last. So a lot of business owners, they just don't know. So yeah, as I said, things are looking good, but still a long way from recovering. Now, we may not be seeing the same impact that of ISO that other countries are experiencing, but our economic success and confidence is still impacted by those overseas countries. So we do not know how long this situation, this pandemic, I guess the fallout from the pandemic, even if the pandemic becomes under control.
And I was speaking to a client today, and they've got plenty of sales, but they do not have supplies. They cannot get their goods from India. It's running rampant. So that just gives you an idea about the impact that it's having and closed borders. So yeah, the impact of other countries, to some degree, and depending on the industry, has more effect than actually what's happening in Australia.
Yeah. So the other problem we see with just sort of sitting back and hoping and praying, because so I know there's a few of my clients on the call today, and they're going to be sick to death of hearing me say this, but hope is not a strategy, right?
They're sick to death.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So the other concern that we have is that unless the business owners have done the type of cash flow planning that we're going to talk about today, you're going to be starting from behind once we do come fully out of ISO. And what we want is for business owners coming out as strongly as possible, even if that is still behind. A lot of business owners will still be coming out behind where they expect it to be. What we want to make sure is that you're as unbehind as possible, so as least behind as possible.
Karen.
Yeah. And the third concern that we have is that without some sort of cash flow plan in place, what's happening is a lot of business owners are just making knee-jerk reactions, and they may not be the smartest and most impactful decisions that they could make for their business. So it's really not just about receiving those entitlements, saying, phew. We need to have a real understanding of what that money will mean for your business specifically. So the sorts of things we want to know about are, how long will the money last? How long can you keep your doors open? If the situation does last longer than anticipated, or if we have a second wave, or as you like to say, Nick, a protracted U instead of a V curve.
You've stolen the thunder.
Oh, so sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, well, that makes up for your bad joke.
Yeah, my bad joke's coming. Anybody that's watched Facebook knows that Nick and I had an argument because he didn't like my joke, but it's still in there. It's coming.
Because you're always right.
I'm not always right, but I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit. Okay, so if the situation does last longer than we've anticipated, can you make it last? And how could you make it last? What are decisions that you could be making now that, right now, that might make the money last longer or put you in a really strong position when things do go back to normal? You want to make sure that you have a really strong handle on your break-even point and know what minimum sales are required to cover all your overheads, and then be able to set some new targets and budgets that are appropriate for what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think essentially when you talk about cash flow, sometimes if it's really tight and you get to your limit, you're going to make decisions about, do I spend it on this? Do I spend it on that? If you've done a cash flow forecast or some planning, a predictive tool, you'll be far more informed about what you can do and what you can't do with money that you might need to spend. So it kind of ties in with what we've been talking about the other day and ISO regrets.
Yes, so this is something that I brought up, I think it was over the weekend, where I said, what is it that business owners will look back and regret once we're out of ISO? What was that?
I'm trying to concentrate.
We're getting some funny comments through, so thank you guys. This makes it fun for us as well. Look, you don't want to get past July or whatever it does end up being and realise that you should have done some planning earlier. You also don't want to look back and think that about things that you could have done and didn't take advantage of. So just one example that I thought of was, for some people, it may be appropriate for you to apply for and hopefully get that government-backed loan, even though you may not technically need it. It really, it may be an inexpensive way to invest in your business at the moment, or maybe pay down some high interest debt. Massive, massive disclaimer here. We're not saying everybody should run out and do that. We're just saying it's worth considering, maybe talking to your bushman accountant about.
Well, that makes me sound dodgy.
No, I mean, because you're beard. and you do need to get advice around that, but there may be some advantage in doing that, because, Mick, would you agree that we're going to struggle? How can you say yes if you don't even know what I'm going to say?
Because I
you think what I'm coming? Yeah, okay. I think it's going to be really hard to get finance after this is over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's a conversation I'm having with a lot of my clients around finance at the moment. In fact, you mentioned the loan, and for a few of my clients, it's been in their best interest to apply for the loan, quite simply to get their tax debts under control. Again, this isn't advice, it's just an example. But I suspect it's going to be a lot harder to get money once this pandemic's all over. And if you need to get you will need to get your tax debts under control, because they've obviously provided a moratorium.
Yeah, moratorium.
Moratorium, thank you. For 6 months on collecting tax. But I think what we're seeing here is everything's deferred for 6 months. But once that runs out and it starts to get this protracted U, yes, not a V, there's not going to be as much leniency on tax debts. And I think you can expect them to come in hard and fast.
Yeah.
Now, I have some theory on borrowing money, which will come to, but I think it's going to be a lot harder to get money.
And the moratorium as well. I mean, if JobKeeper can change, so might that. So we're certainly still encouraging people that don't get yourself behind if you don't have to. And even if you think that, look, I have to defer the tax for now, give us a call and just talk it through so that we can make sure it is in your best interest. Because one of the things that I passionately believe in is at some point we have to pay the piper, right?
Yeah.
And the way that the piper is going to be paid in this instance is going to be through tax, right? So the leniency is very, very short term. Don't expect that this is going to be something that's going to go on for long. And when they do come back in, like Mick, you just said before, I agree with you, they're going to come back in hard and fast.
So this is another reason to do a cash flow plan, to look at whether you can increase, in fact, pay your tax as it's coming due and payable, or even push it out for the 6 months, or use some low interest finance, these government-backed loans we talk about, to help fund that, or at least get it under control in the short term.
And we're seeing people actually getting these loans through now.
Yeah. So it isn't free money. It's just money that the government hasn't had sitting around waiting for this pandemic to come.
No.
They've in fact printed it. So at some point it's going to have to, come back into the economy, and the quicker the better. So it's going to have to be repaid. One of the interesting points to note, though, is that it does seem that there's more and more businesses getting approved for these loans, and that's very good news, because no one was being approved, but now they're definitely seeing a number that's getting through. So I think it's something you should seriously consider when you look at your forecasting.
I think like JobKeeper, it was announced, but the banks didn't have the framework.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a framework, it does seem to be working a little bit better. So there is still time to do that. I know, like in our circumstances, we've applied for the loan, even though we don't technically need the loan, but we can see some opportunities coming at the moment.
That's precisely the point, because it is low interest loan, and it might be in fact a cash flow opportunity for your business. For example, as Karen said, we don't technically need it, but it could be the cheapest business funding for decades, and it's 50% government backed. And from our perspective, Karen said we've applied for the loan. That's true, because we believe there's some strategic acquisitions for accountants that have just pulled all their hair out over JobKeeper.
Yeah,
so
I'm out.
It might be the final straw for those, baby boomers ready to retire. JobKeeper stepped them over the edge of the coronavirus pandemic. So, there's some interesting times ahead for maybe distressed businesses, maybe opportunities as well. So that's our reason for applying for the loan, but everyone has a different one.
Yeah, it might be worth considering, at least, is all we're saying. So, yeah.
And I think the important thing we mentioned, it's going to be hard to get money after this. And my theory is very simple enough, in that the code of conduct or borrowing code of conduct will go back to normal. The credit criteria will be more stringent than ever. And I guess the banks are coming under more pressure. You see they're suspending dividends.
Yeah.
The profitability is under pressure. The property market's under pressure. Their balance sheets are under stress. So it will make it extremely hard, in my view, to get money on a business front without massive security going forward. So you really need to look at serious financial modelling, which at the end of the day is something that we've advocated and you should be doing anyway. But now is critical, and I'll say that for two main reasons. Funding post this pandemic will be hard. And if you're relying on the JobKeeper Plus also, which might, in my theory, be slashed in half in terms of potentially it's not just going to be $750 a week for everyone, it's going to be different for different people, and it might be cut in July. I think the second one is more likely. So what we don't want to see you doing is getting your entitlements but not planning and what that might mean for your business. Even if you know you'll get through the next few months, no one really knows what will happen. And the COVID could be protracted. And instead of this V-shaped bounce that everybody's talking about, because we're coming out of ISO a bit quicker than everyone expected, and we could actually have an extended U-shape, which means we're at the bottom, which means demand is low, which means your sales will be low. And if you don't look at your cash flow, things like your overheads as well, you could be at the bottom of the protracted U and you'll struggle. So this is why we keep emphasising cash flow.
And look, just coming back to my point earlier as well about this doesn't have to necessarily be about survival. For some businesses, this time is actually going to be an opportunity, because I'm telling you right now, there are some businesses that are going to come off better than they were before we went into isolation because of this funding. But if you don't do the planning now, you're not going to know whether you're going to be in that position, and you won't know to make the decisions that you need to make to ensure that you are in that position to be able to survive long term, or potentially even thrive as a result of it.
And just on that, and I digress a little bit, but I don't think I think applying for this loan for a business at 50% government backed is easier right now than applying for a credit card.
Yeah.
So, and you can get up to 250. So the point is, if plan, look at your cash flow, look at your forecasting, look at where your business is, look at the financial projections of your sales, look at your overheads. These things you should be really looking at to see whether you can take advantage of the easiest loan application you will ever do in your life.
In fact, like, I'm just thinking now, some opportunities might be, and we've talked about potential business acquisitions. There's also, you know, maybe there might be cheap equipment, cheap cars. I mean, car sales have dropped by nearly 50%, haven't they? So
48% to be precise.
Exactly, right, okay, 50%. You might potentially be able to get cheaper property, but you won't know unless you know. So really, we need to now be looking at, okay, so most business owners are familiar with this concept of cash flow forecasting, but these circumstances are obviously quite different at the moment. So what I've asked Mick to do today is to go through a bit of a list of things he feels that you need to add into your cash flow.
Factor in
for these particular circumstances. So this is what I was saying before, hopefully you've got your pens ready, because Mick has got a bit of a list here of things that you want to take into account.
So firstly, it's going to be JobKeeper. You know, that's been an enormous demand on everybody, and you know, just to get through the process of how it's going to look. So JobKeeper and JobSeeker, what does that look like for your business? And again, when you do your modelling, you should be doing it on a 3-month receiving JobKeeper, in my opinion now, instead of 6. Have you received any government funding or the loan guarantee? I think that's the end result. That's what you want to know, what you do need. So that's the key question.
But some people have already got it, so they need to factor that in as well.
Factor that in up front. And when do you need that funding? It still takes a decent amount of time to get it. How will the economic boost of up to $100,000 in PAYG affect you? You can factor that in. You don't have to pay your PAYG.
Well, it affects the cash flow.
Yep. Deferring any loan repayments, again, have you factored those in? Have you negotiated your rent reduction and deferral with your landlord? Again, that's important. Yes, Damien, I'll call you. Do you need to make any changes with your staff? Have you? It might be one of those things where while you got JobKeeper and everyone's being reimbursed, you're being reimbursed $1,500 a fortnight, it may not be that critical right now. But there may be some staff that don't qualify. There are team members that don't qualify. Reduced rates, reduced hours, stand down and terminations, because that's still on the cards. Any other adjustments you need to make for your
have already
made.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Things like marketing, advertising, we did a big one on that. Don't just go slashing that as a discretionary. Property and plant and equipment, what do you need to do there? And things like demand for your supplies of goods and services. Is it slower in Corona? Yeah, you want to look at that. Yeah. Deferred credit terms, is it just an ongoing request from your clients to extend credit terms from whatever it might be, 30 days now to 60 days? And are you seeing them meet those credit terms? So you've got to factor those in. It's one thing to sell, cash is oxygen. It's another thing to collect.
Yes.
Has a major customer gone into liquidation or stringing you along, and it might look like they're going into liquidation, or are they becoming doubtful? You should model a key customer's doubtful debt into your cash flow, just to have a look at what that might do. And sometimes you are extremely surprised at what that can do to your cash flow. Can you, on the other side of the coin, can you extend your credit terms with key suppliers if you have to buy stock? just to push out those creditor days to allow you some extra cash flow time to make sure that your business can trade through it. And things like, do you need to spend money to adapt your business model? Some people have to adapt their business model because they're closed or they've got new avenues of earning revenue. Are your debtor days blowing out? And the usual things you take into account when you're financial modelling. So, overheads and things like that. So you've really got to factor in a lot of things and do some what-if scenarios.
So thank you. That was
good list.
It is a pretty pretty detailed list, and I did literally get Mick to sit down over the weekend and write all the things out that he thought that he could think of to be included. So hopefully that's been helpful for you to know what you need to add into your cash flow. That said, also very mindful when we did all that, afterwards, I was looking at it and I'm saying to me, actually this could be overwhelming for a lot of people, right? So it's all very good for us, all very well for us to say, yes, this is really important. You need to do some planning. Here's a big, dirty, long list of things to factor in. Now go out and do your cash flow planning. So I said to Mick, we've got to do something. We need to be able to offer something here. So we are going to do something to help if you are somebody who does find this a little bit daunting. I know that there are some of my clients that would already I can think of that would find this a little bit daunting, or maybe you don't find it daunting, but it's just the last thing that you want to do.
Not excited about it.
That's right, exactly. But this is exciting because I want to share what we're going to be doing. But I need to, before I do the big reveal, need to stress it's only going to be available until we come out of stage 3 of ScoMo's 3-stage isolation plan, because it's very, very genuinely something that we have put together to help because we're in hard times. And look, right from the beginning of going into isolation, we very publicly announced our commitment to business owners and being able to help you through this crisis. So we have, I started to call it an unbelievable offering, but then I started calling it a phenomenal offering, right? Because, well, I'll share it in a second, but we're not just taking a bath on this one. I was thinking this is like an Olympic swimming pool. What do you call those? Yeah. I'm going to pull up, I'm going to share my screen and put this on the screen. So if anybody wants to take a photo.
Before you do that, you get to sit in front of me and see this.
So yeah, feel free at the moment, because there is a lot here and we have some other stuff we want to go through before we finish off today as well. So feel free to take a photo of it or a screenshot or whatever you need to do, right? So what we're including in this, we're calling it the Roadmap Through ISO Cash Flow Service. So it is completely purpose-built for what we're going through now. And what it's going to include is that we're going to do your cash flow projections for your business. So Mick will do all the calculations and all the preparation to get that done. Once he's done that, there'll be a 90-minute meeting with Mick to discuss the results of those projections and, importantly, what it means for your business. And then he's going to give you some advice. He won't just say to you, oh, okay, here's what it means, see you later. What's really, really important is we want to give you some advice on what actions you can take based on those projections to move your business as powerfully forward as possible, whether that's for survival or whether that's actually to potentially make sure that you even thrive out of this. And a quick action plan of the top, say, 1 to 3 activities that you'll need to implement in order to be able to make the most of your entitlements and your long-term position. The 5th thing that we're offering, it's but wait, there's more. But the 5th thing is potentially the most exciting part of this service.
Why am I not surprised if I look at number 5? You think it's the most exciting?
Well, what we thought is, it's great to get all this information and to get these things to implement. I'd love to have a chat with you about your strategy as well. So depending on what comes out of the cash flow, I'd love to jump on a meeting with you for an hour or so and have a look at what strategic things, because for those of you who don't know, I'm the business growth expert at the Hendry Group. So Mick loves his numbers, but then I love to say, okay, well, how do we get to those numbers? What could we change? What could we do? How could we position things? So, yeah, love to have that chat with you about that. Then, and this,
I think that's important to note. As an accountant, and I'm getting serious, as you can see, it's not just about slash and burn as an accountant. It's not, you know, cut your costs. I'm not an accountant that cuts costs at all for all. What is it? Just for the sake of it, or just to get your costs down. Sometimes you've got to reinvest. So it's one of those things where, you know, Karen will come up with some strategies to help you grow, because I think I did a video last week about the 5 financial mistakes, and one of them is just slashing costs, which really does inhibit your future growth sometimes.
And we are going to also have something that we didn't want to just stop it there. We wanted to have an on-track meeting for you so that you can see that this is working, right? And if it's not working, then do a bit of course correction, or if something is really working, maybe we amplify it. But it also means that it holds you a little bit accountable, because if you know you've got that other meeting coming up, you're more likely to work to that time frame. And we'll give you, most of you have got a copy of our best-selling book already in electronic form, but we thought we'll give you, just to have, you know, something extra, we'll give you a print copy of that, signed, of course, by the authors. And now, get ready for my joke, right? So the eighth thing that you'll get, it would have been funny if I just hadn't led into it, but I did. So the next thing that you'll get, why won't it? Oh yeah, Mel Gibson's phone number. Yeah, okay. It really, it wasn't as funny as I thought it was. But you would be surprised how many people have asked me over the last couple of years whether I got Mel Gibson's phone number. And I just do have to say that no, he did not give me his phone number. He did not say, let's keep in touch. He didn't say, hey, Kaz, you're the best person I've met in years. No, he just said, he gave me a hug, but after that it was just goodbye. So unfortunately, I can't give you Mel Gibson's phone number. But what I can do is, if you want to look at all those things, I mean, that's a massive package. There's a lot involved in that. So if we were offering that in real world scenario, it would be worth over $3,500. And even at that price, that'd be a pretty good price. But our ISO price, and this is why I'm saying it's phenomenal, is $897. Okay. So it is only available if you've got your books online or on the cloud. But if you do, then you can take us up on that $897, and we will just be doing it first in, first serve. We will get to everybody, but the sooner you book in, the sooner we will get your particular cash flow done. All you need to do is call us and we'll book you in. Alternatively, you'll see there's a link. If you want to take a photo of that and go to that link, you can book yourself directly into Mick's calendar. And once that happens, we'll get in touch with you and start working on the projections. So this is potentially the best thing that we've ever done.
The best offer.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I've got a couple of questions coming through. One is, what if you're not online? Look, this offer really is only if you are online, but if you're not, if anybody's desperate to do this, maybe email me at c.hendry@hendry.com.au and I'll see what we can do for you specifically. Also, okay, another one coming through, cheeky question. If you're discounting it so much, why not free? All right, that is a good question, and I do have a really good answer for that. The first is that I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time, and one thing I know for absolute sure is that if we set it for free, you won't value it and you won't do it, all right? You need to have some skin in the game. It's too important. I know, I've done this before. I've fallen for this years ago where people go, oh, no, but I promise I will do it. But you just don't. And then that would make this whole offer counterproductive. That would be, frankly, not worth you doing it if that was the case.
I think it's also critical information. Cash is oxygen for business. It's very simple in a lot of ways. So you do need to know where you stand and how long your oxygen lasts.
Yeah.
So, we try and have fun in these webinars, but the cash flow service is there for a very serious purpose, to understand where your business is at, how long it can survive, the financial levers you do or don't need to pull to maybe make that last longer, and even what your break-even point is, to see what you need to sell to keep those doors open. You know, when the rent relief runs out, when the JobKeeper runs out, what has to happen to allow you to thrive beyond that? So, you know,
So there has to be some skin in the game.
yeah, and we just want to make sure you're aware of how important it is to understand the cash position.
Yeah. The other answer to that, Nat, by the way, is something is still better than nothing. Okay. So yeah, but the main reason is because we need people to be a little bit invested themselves here, but because we really, really want this week. So there you have it. We're here to help if you need us, but let's get on with some other issues now with regards to cash flow. I think everybody's had enough time to take their photos and get in touch. And if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to let me know.
We'll factor it into the cash flow, the 897.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. It will come back to you. Don't worry.
So it's probably a captain obvious right now to suggest that party cash flow forecasting is a great time to review expenses. But it does come with a bit of caution. As we said, you know, you don't want to make those knee-jerk reactions out of fear in terms of some of your expenses and overheads. We see a lot of business owners that are tempted to do it just to stop everything for absolute survival. And that could be a big mistake, because it might ease things short term, but potentially cause a lot greater damage long term for your business longevity. So as much as possible, you still need to be doing things that will move your business forward and be in a very good position once the crisis does pass. We will talk about that more in another session, but I just want to flag it as an important consideration.
Yeah. Look, the three areas that I've really been recommending that my clients review are, first of all, things that you've forgotten you were paying for. I've been surprised how many business owners over the years, when we look through their expenses, have gone, oh, I've forgotten I was even getting that. You know, like kind of like the gym membership that you just kind of let keep going. So have a look for those things. Things that you're paying for that you don't really use. So I found the big one here tends to be software. So people will have this whiz-bang software, but they're not actually using it. So it might be a good time to be able to review that. And also just looking then at things that you know that you can absolutely live without, and your business won't fall behind if you stop that expense.
And something Karen said earlier, there's two things you want to make sure of right now. Firstly, what is your current cash position, and how much do you have, and how long it will last? That's essentially all you want to know. This is what a cash flow service does, and this is what you should do to look at your cash flow. And secondly, what is your break-even point? You need to know the minimum sales required to cover all your overheads at a bare minimum. You want to be able to see whether, even if you don't make a profit, because we are in lean times, and it's probably nowhere near what you're expecting or even hoped for, you can at least know what sales target you need to achieve to keep those doors open, to keep paying those bills as and when they fall due. So figuratively, we want to tell you what you need to focus on. You need to factor in seasonality, and it's always better to err on the side of caution. As a forecasting generalization, a lot of people are overly optimistic. So what we have to do is make sure that we are really mindful about forecasts.
Yeah. For the expenses, yeah.
For the expenses. And you also want to be mindful of your stock levels. Maybe a great time.
If that's relevant, it's not relevant to everybody, but if it is, yeah.
So yeah, stock is important for a lot of businesses to resell to make a margin. Maybe a time where stock can be bought cheap.
Some people are selling things just cheap, just to get them out their door.
The cash.
Maybe for $897, I don't know.
And you may have surplus cash. But it also might mean you run into more trouble because you bought stock that you can't turn over. So you've got to have that information about what stock is turning, what stock you could be buying that can help sell more and give you more cash flow. But you don't want to risk overspending either and put yourself in a difficult position. So if you don't know where you are, you can't predict where you're going to be if you spend a great chunk of money on some stock that might take you longer to convert into cash. So there's all these things to consider, especially around the stock. But if coronavirus does last longer than expected and your sales are lower, this is why you need to do some planning and forecasting to look at, you know, what can you do, the financial levers to pull, and also what funding do you need? What funding do you potentially need?
We've been asked a fair bit about debtors and whether you should keep following up your debtors or not. And look, there's no reason that you shouldn't still be following up your debtors. You never want to assume that somebody isn't in a position to pay or isn't willing to pay unless they've specifically told you. You're not a bad person if you want to keep your business going. At the end of the day, your business is there to provide a service that people need or a product that people need. And they don't want you going under because you were too nice to follow up some debtors. But what you may want to do instead is review your approach. So maybe this is a great time to make a bit of extra effort with personal phone calls to see how clients are going. And if they are doing it tough, then maybe then you can come to some sort of arrangement, or maybe, you know, maybe there's some amount they can pay towards it, or a payment plan, or some sort of plan in place that means that it doesn't just go by the wayside. One thing that, and this is something I was talking to a client today, was the longer you leave chasing up a debtor, the more unlikely it is that you will be paid. All right, so it is something that you do need to get on top of, even if it does turn out that you need to make some sort of, a special arrangement for that particular client. All right, so we must be close to a wrap by now. Hopefully we've given you a fair bit today. So I'll just summarise, because there was a lot and we did talk reasonably fast. So I guess the first thing is, don't make the mistake a lot of business owners are going to make, which is just taking those entitlements and hoping and praying that it's going to see you through back to recovery. Whether you survive or thrive is going to depend on you having an understanding about what this all means for your business specifically. We talked about cash flow forecasting, and Mick mentioned that this is best practice no matter what the circumstances are, to do this sort of planning for your business. But right now it's critical, and that's whether you do it yourself or you enlist our help. We don't care as long as you get it done. You want to be in the most powerful position possible when we do come out of this pandemic. Some people will be better off than before, and if you are aware of that now, you can make some smart decisions, or you can make some smart decisions to get you to a point where you are better off than when we first went into isolation. We went through what to include in your cash flow forecasting, so what to factor in with what's going on right now. And again, please, we don't care if you do it yourself or you get us to do it, as long as you do it. We're going to make it as easy as possible for you, but just do it. And we finished off with our tips for reviewing expenses. So knowing your current position, your stock levels, and your debtors. So we've covered a lot today. I hope that was valuable. I hope that was worthwhile for you.
So of course, I'd encourage you to take advantage of our roadmap through ISO cash flow service. As Cad said, we're offering this level of service outside ISO. It'd be $3,500. You get so much time with this.
With this,
and you don't want to kick yourself later for not taking advantage of the 897 tax.
Because we're not bullshitting on this. We are not going to make money out of this, and we don't care. This is our way of being able to help you. This is something we want to do for our hubsters.
Yep. So you'll get calculations. You'll get idea about where your cash is now and how it will look each month going forward for the next 12 months. Meeting to discuss what it means for you and what you need to do to move forward. Get a very straightforward action plan on what you should be doing. Brainstorming with the growth guru Kaz.
That's me.
She's out of trouble now. She's Kaz. And we'll get a 2-month follow-up just to ensure that, because it is a predictive tool. We want to make sure we are close there. And of course, it'd be remiss of me not to urge you to take you up on it, because we've heard a lot of times that knowledge is peace of mind in these cases. So some understanding of where you sit in your cash flow position does give a lot of people peace of mind and/or urgency if they need to make some tough decisions. It's better sometimes earlier than later, from what we've seen with some businesses. So yeah, it's all about being informed.
Yeah, and look, you know, we've made quite a few jokes throughout this session, but we are
Mine
loving.
were better than yours.
Yeah, okay, maybe I'll get some. But we really are loving being of service to you at the moment. It's really fulfilling and humbling to be able to do something worthwhile in these crazy times. So we're really happy to be able to do that for you. Now, please, if you've got any questions for us between now and next week, jump onto the Facebook page. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we'll pretty much, I guess, you know, we're 1 minute over, so we probably need to let people go, and we'll see you next week. And also, you know, in the Facebook page, don't hesitate to let us know if there's anything that you'd like us to touch on in these webinars as well. So, okay, Damien wants us to fix my clock that's not working. You should see my Batman clock, it's even better.
My jokes were better.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, have a great week, everybody. But make sure you get onto that cash flow ASAP. Do not make it something you kick yourself later and go, I wish I'd done more planning, because now is absolutely the time. So thank you for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, and we'll chat to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
And my beard,
yes,
say
you and
goodbye.
your beard. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to see you too. Thank you.